This is TALKish. I am Halli Casser-Jayne. TALKish is available at HalliCasser-Jayne.com. Now, let's get to it. Andrew McCabe's resignation. Robert Mueller's investigation of President Trump. Will Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg resign? How does she stay so fit in her 80s? These questions and more today on TALKish, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. When joining me at my table is Newsweek's Senior Washington Correspondent Matthew Cooper and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's longtime friend and personal trainer, the author of the RBG WORKOUT, Bryant Johnson. We begin with Matthew Cooper, here to assess the state of the union a year into the presidency of Donald Trump. Matt Cooper has worked for some of America's most prestigious magazines, including Time, The New Republic, National Journal, and U.S. News and World Report. He wrote for Newsweek in the 1990s and rejoined the magazine in 2014. A veteran White House correspondent, he's known for his in-depth reporting and analysis. Cooper also earned national attention during the CIA leak case, where his refusal to name his sources went all the way to the Supreme Court. He's appeared on 60 Minutes, Meet the Press, Fox News, and a host of broadcast and cable shows. It's time for TALKish. Let's talk with Newsweek's Senior Washington Correspondent, Matthew Cooper. Okay, Matt, always nice to have you back.
Thanks.
When Trump burst on the scene, you and I talked. I was thinking about this. When it looked like he might have a real shot at the presidency, you and I talked. When he got himself elected, we talked. 100 days in, we talked some more. But Matt, did you ever think a little over a year into this, we'd talk and the story would be what it is today? I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. I'm horrified. How are you? Are you worried for the Republic? Talk to me.
Well, I try to be optimistic about things, Halli. I try to be a half glass full guy, but obviously some things that have happened over the last year that are somewhat disturbing, no matter what your politics are. So that's unsettling. Tonight is a chance for him to try to regroup a little. I doubt a leopard, a 71-year-old leopard, is going to change his spots, but we'll see what he says tonight.
Are you worried for the Republic, though? Because I am.
I must say, I found yesterday quite disturbing. One, several things happened in one day. I mean, first, Congress overwhelmingly passed additional sanctions against Russia. I mean, like 98-2 in the Senate. The president was obliged yesterday to say how he was going to implement them, and they basically said, we're not going to do them. We're not going to do the sanctions. So that was unsettling. Then you had the House Republicans, or I don't know what they're doing, but they're messing around with this release of this memo that their chairman in the Intelligence Committee has written. They won't allow the Democrats to release a response memo, so that's a big mess. You had the number two, the FBI, who the president targeted by name, attacked by name, resigned his guy's name's Andrew McCabe, career FBI guy. He resigned yesterday, or took a leave, and he's going to be resigning at the end of the month. So he's out of the building. I think you got a number of things related to the Russia thing that's disturbing, and I hope above all that the investigation just continues and it plays out to the end. And,
all right, so let's get into the weeds. Let's get into this Director Andrew McCabe, FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Resigns, even though he didn't. He had like days that he could have waited because he was going to get his pension in March. But something,
right.
No inside.
He left the building early, no question. He left the building little early.
Escorted. They're usually escorted when Trump gets rid of his people. And of course, the president says, or his press secretary, such as she is, says this was not the president's doing. You have any inside scoop on this? Does anybody really know what happened yesterday?
I don't really know. I mean, I think a couple of things people are talking about here. I mean, one is that this House Intelligence Committee memo is going to come out in the next couple of days, and it's probably critical of McCabe in some respects. Second thing is the president's been, attacking him by name, and I'm sure that can't be pleasant to deal with while you're in your last days of your job. But also it's not great for the institution, the FBI. So I think some combination of personally wanting to get out of there and institutional concern about the FBI probably propelled him, but I don't have any special insights here.
Okay. I was just curious about it because it does seem odd that Monday came around and va-va-voom, there he was. I just saw something before we were starting our chat that says something about he may have resigned because of Judicial Watch, or somebody may have some kind of something that's going to come out.
Right. Well, I think there have been criticisms of him, and that his wife was a state Senate candidate in Virginia. She got a lot of money from the state's then governor, Terry McAuliffe, who's close with the Clintons. And the question is, why didn't McCabe recuse himself from working on the Hillary Clinton email investigation? Now, those things happened at different times, and people, I think there's been a defense of him in public. There have been criticisms of him in public. And so that may be part of it here.
And there's more, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk. We could start with the Mueller investigation, or whatever.
Sure.
You could, but everything, Matt, everything leads right back to the same place, thwarting the investigation, undermining its validity.
Well, I think there's no question that the president's not being very surreptitious or discreet about his intentions here. He said to Lester Holt on NBC that part of the reason why he fired Robert Mueller last year was because of the Russia investigation. It's clear he hates this investigation. He says it's because it's useless, but others say it's because there's something at the end of it that won't be good for him. But it's clear he doesn't want this investigation to proceed. Now, does that rise to the level of obstruction of justice? I think we'll find out.
You were such what is it, like the antithesis of me? Because no, it's true, and it's a good thing.
I just try to see, look, I find it very unsettling what's been going on with regards to this investigation
But I think you do have to, but you have to look at it. You have to say Comey's gone, McCabe's going, Rosenstein could be next.
I think there could be. Look, this is the president. He has said publicly, I didn't want my attorney general to recuse himself because I wanted my guy running the investigation. That's not subtle.
That's not subtle.
That's not subtle.
He's not subtle, and it's interesting to me as well. It's so obvious to anybody who is even paying just a tiny bit of attention to all of this, Matt. And yet his people, his 37% or 35%, whatever the heck it is, that you cannot get these people to see the light of day no matter what is thrown in their face. Any thoughts about that? That to me, and I said this, I was talking to Alan Lichtman. And I said to Alan the other day the same thing. I said, Alan, we are all being held hostage by 35% of America. It's bizarre. In fact, the whole world is. Talk to me about that.
Well, this, it's different than Watergate, I think, where people were more persuadable now. Nixon had a lot of diehard supporters right up to the end. But, in Congress, people moved off their hard and fast defense of him. Famously, Barry Goldwater, the former presidential nominee, went to the White House and said, "You got to quit. It's over." And other Republicans changed their mind about him. I think, we'll see if there is a more intractable now than they were then. But people seem really very dug in on their positions.
But you're talking about Congress, and we're going to talk about them in a minute. I'm talking about his followers.
Well, I agree with the followers. I'm sure you see it on social media. Mm-hmm. I certainly see it. People are really dug in on their facts, and God knows, it's a cliche. But if you watch Fox News, it is a different planet. You're watching.
It really is a different planet.
A different planet every night.
They don't even speak English over there. All right, I heard something this morning on Morning Joe. You're going to love the word. I almost plotzed. I haven't used that word in 100 years.
What was the word? What did they say?
They were talking about Devin Nunes.
Right.
And who do you think? With it was wild to watch, but John Heilemann.
Yeah.
Such a respected journalist.
Sure.
Okay. Just fumfered and carried on and finally said, with complete and utter seriousness, like, oh my God, suggested that Nunes might be compromised by the Russians. I have never seen anything like it in years. Somebody who, we all respect. He could not keep his mouth shut. He had to say it. He said it's been, everybody on the Hill is talking about it. Nobody wants to say it on air. Here we go. And everybody's eyes just rolled out of their head. This is America. This is 2018. This is Morning Joe television. And Heilman says, has Nunes been compromised? And maybe Paul Ryan, too. Talk to me.
Oh, my. Well, look, I mean, at the heart of the Mueller investigation is whether the, president was somehow compromised. So it's not totally far-fetched that a member of Congress would be as well if the president potentially could be. But that said, I'd be reluctant to say that. I just think that's a very serious accusation to throw around without more substance. But
you can understand it, right? I mean, I can thoroughly understand. The guy also, by the way, he looks like he doesn't speak the same language or come from the same planet than the rest of us, this Nunes guy. I mean,
yeah, I must say, when you look at Richard Burr, who's his counterpart in the Senate, working with Mark Warner, it's really quite a contrast. I mean, Burr's got some partisan edge, but he's from planet Earth.
Right.
Right. And Nunes seems, he has a kind of delusional streak.
And there's also this. Didn't he recuse himself? Why is he even on this, Matt?
Right. Well, this is so crazy. He had recused himself, but clearly he's back in the thick of it. Look, we're going to, the news tonight's going to be all about the State of the Union, and the news by the end of the week is going to be all about this crazy memo that the Republicans are putting out. It's going to, allege terrible unfairness to the president and to this Carter Page figure, the one who is central to the investigation. So it's, every day is a new day.
Every minute is a new minute.
Every minute's a new minute.
You've been in Washington for a very, very long time. Do you remember anything
hundreds
like this?
Hundreds of years. Really nothing like it because, I've been through any number of...
and you've had your own crazy.
I've had my own crazy, sure. I mean, look, I had a very small part in the CIA leak case.
A small part? How about a big part in the CIA leak?
I had a part. But... but it was here for the Iran-Contra affair in the 80s, the Clinton impeachment in the 90s.
When you were just a child.
When I was but a child. And, look, I think there is something really bizarre about this in a way that has some antecedents in those times, but is not really quite as weird.
Okay, describe for me. Dark?
I feel like it's dark, and I feel like it's deeply frustrating. I mean... people on these investigative committees in the past would fight a lot. They were very partisan. People have a very saintly idea now of the Senate Watergate Committee and Howard Baker, the Tennessee senator who was the ranking member and famously asked John Dean, Richard Nixon's White House counsel, what did the president know and when did he know it? People have forgotten that he asked that question as a way of discrediting Dean, that the Republicans on that committee were very partisan defending the president until the facts became, really apparent that Nixon was involved, in which case they did pivot. And, I just don't see anybody pivoting off their position now, regardless of what facts come in.
Well, that's one of my points that I think is so extraordinary in all of this, and that is you talk about the Nixon era and you say, okay, great, we know what happened, had a bad president, he was taken down appropriately, and everybody stood up. But that was the president. It's my contention here that the issue is not just the president, that Congress is as ill or as sick or as dark or as bad as the president. And when you have both, this may be why the Republic is, for the first time in my life, truly, I feel, threatened. Like I'm thinking almost, Matt, and I'm not an alarmist on many things.
Yeah.
On the brink. I don't know how you walk yourself back if somebody doesn't take the reins real soon and do something to walk it back. Carl Bernstein last night went bananas. Don't you think that that's something that is different now than in Nixon? That there were good people in Congress, and I'm questioning, at least on the Republican side, how good they are.
Yeah, well, I think there were a lot more Republicans who depended on Democratic votes to get elected, and I think it made their positions more flexible, and vice versa. So you had a lot of conservative Democrats in Congress. All the Southern segregationists most of them were still in office at the time of Watergate. People like John Stennis and Sam Ervin, the chair of the Senate Watergate Committee, had been a segregationist. You have people with a more centrist background who were a little more politically flexible. I think that made it a little easier both to cut deals on things like spending, but also for them not to become quite as intractable and as partisan as they are now.
And then there is another interesting twist to it, which is the Republican Party is just completely broken up. There were a lot of old-time Republican conservatives who are now the never-Trumper, no-Trumper.
Yeah.
Will they ever come back to that party? Is that party permanently
I must say,
damaged?
I mean, you look at, people honored Bob Dole this week last week when he got a congressional medal.
Yeah.
And he was. It's hard to imagine now that Gerald Ford picked Bob Dole as his running mate in 1976 to assuage the right, to tame the Reagan Revolution. He had to dump his then Vice President Nelson Rockefeller. It's hard to remember John Kasich, when he came into Congress, was considered a bad boy and a super conservative and a Newt Gingrich ally. And, now he is, people talk about him as a moderate third-party alternative. So you've got a lot of changes, especially in the Republican Party, and that plays a factor here.
A huge factor on this memo. None of us have seen it. None of us really know.
None of us have seen it. Right. Apparently what it's meant to do is to discredit some of the things that the Justice Department under Trump and that prosecutors have been doing. Supposedly, and this is just from secondhand reports, that, it questions why the number two at the Trump Justice Department, Rod Rosenstein, extended a special search warrant of Trump campaign aide Carter Page. It had already been issued before Rosenstein came to office with Trump in 2017, but he extended it, or really he didn't have the authority to extend it. He asked a court to extend it, and they agreed. It's been leaked that somehow this is going to make Rosenstein look bad, and it's going to seem like an improper use of power. We'll have to wait and see the memo, but I don't think the case is very convincing. A couple of Russians have already been jailed in part because they had tried to, flip Carter Page. It wasn't crazy to be looking at him, and it's a very short memo, just 4 pages or so. Typically when you go to these FISA courts,
they're huge, right? Big documents.
Yeah, that stands for Foreign Information Surveillance Act. You have to go to a special judge in a secret court. It's very cloak and dagger, and the government presents its evidence. Usually,
can I just interject here?
Yeah.
And a Republican idea.
Oh, totally Republican. Yeah.
You got to put this in perspective here.
Yeah, I mean, this was how you would get these special warrants, and they set up this special court system, and the government goes in. Generally, these briefs are 70, 100 pages, and even if they get the permission, they've got to go back every 90 days and prove that what they're getting is still worth getting, and why the warrant should be continued. So, if they're only putting out a 4-page memo, that's not. It's not necessarily indicative of what the government was arguing in those cases. This is a very strange time, and the big thing, that we're dancing around here is whether he's going to fire Mueller or find a way to fire Mueller.
Right. And your guess?
Well, I didn't think he would. God knows I have no special insight, but he acts like a guy who wants to.
He surely does.
He surely does. And I sort of think the Republicans are making it easier for him because they're not giving him any yellow lights, let alone red lights.
No, they're doing nothing of the sort. Right.
Anything they're piling on Mueller. So why is the president who wants to do this going to feel uninhibited?
No, and I think it's interesting also that I want to bring this point up, and I'm sure you'll agree, which is what he's doing. Everybody who's listening needs to understand, including Trumpers. He's speaking to you. He's not speaking to Congress. He's not speaking to Matt or to Halli. He's speaking to his followers. He's trying to know that when the deal comes down. And I don't mean to, to be speaking, like I'm up here and you're down. I'm just saying, this is the master manipulator. You got to put it all in perspective when you're talking about Trump. It's not like anybody else.
Well, he is trying to fire up his people, and I think if he's going to do it, there's a lot of reason to do it before Republicans potentially lose the House.
Well, yeah, that's something else we probably need to talk about because it's certainly right now looking interesting. But
yeah, I wouldn't be quite as optimistic as some Democrats have been.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, I think these seats are pretty gerrymandered. I think there's almost a whole year till the election. We'll have to see if Democrats really can't take the House.
Yeah, and this is amazing because we now know these districts have been gerrymandered by the Republicans, and finally the courts are taking issue with it. But they're not going to be able to fix it before the election, which is really kind of stinky. But it is the reality of the way it was. So I had a Twitter conversation. I'm not going to say who it was with. I can say one person who was in it, and that was Joe Walsh, who surprised me. Whoever thought that I'm going to quote him. He said, "Think about what the Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee just did today. They told the entire country that the FBI is our enemy, not Russia, but our very own FBI. That's irresponsible and disgusting. Trust me when I tell you. Would you expect that from him? Not I. Not I." Interestingly enough, and I'm not going to tell you who it was. I tried to get a hold of her today to use her name, but I couldn't get a hold of her. She came back and she said, and really just kind of took him down. She said, it implies that if there are bad acts within the intel community, we aren't supposed to want to expose or remedy them. It's kind of like saying you don't want to go after bad cops because it taints all cops. Not very logical. To which Halli replied, right, and got slapped. There are many ways to deal with so-called bad actors that don't have to undermine the entire organization.
Right.
And that's the thing about Trump. That, in a nutshell, tells you who he is and how he thinks. Because he wants to take the whole arm and just wipe the entire desk clean.
Yeah.
That's his style. That's his style. And I think you have to know that style in order to know what's coming next or even how you're going to argue back. I watched Nancy Pelosi last night on CNN, and I got to tell you, she's not the person to go up against Trump. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
To Sally Sunshine, to everybody is good. This guy is not good, and you can't play. You have to fight fire with him.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see how the young Kennedy does tonight, delivering the Democratic response.
Who knew he was a twin? By the way, that was fascinating to find out. So listen to also this. So on the State of the Union. Who do you think is going to show up? Andrew Shepard from the American president or P.T. Barnum? Let's take bets, Matt. Who do you think is going to show?
I think he's going to be more American president. I mean, I think he's going to be more. I don't think he's going to act out wildly.
No, I agree with you there. But the thing about it is, it's still an act, and I want.
It's an act either way.
It's an act either way, and yet. The press won't come out and say, "Oh, wasn't he wonderful? He was so soft." It's like I want to scream.
Yeah, if the bar is that low,
it's that low. It's a very, very not okay thing that the bar is that low. Anyway, here are the charges against him: collusion, which you can't really get him on collusion because there's no legal spiegel for the collusion, so to speak. Obstruction or money laundering. I think those are what we're all talking about in terms of the Mueller investigation. I'm curious from your vantage point, however, will he get indicted? Because no president's been indicted before, right?
No, I don't think so. It would be sort of a novel concept, and I'm not sure Mueller's inclined to experiment with that. I mean, basically, impeachment is the way you indict a president. That's the process. We sort of take presidents out of the courts.
Right. That's a political thing.
And we hand it over to Congress. And that's why impeachment is structured like a trial. The House indicts. They're like a grand jury. They either vote for or against impeachment, and then the Senate is like a courtroom. There's a trial in the Senate, and that's what happened to Clinton. The House voted to impeach. The Senate had a trial presided over by the Chief Justice, and the defendant, Bill Clinton, was acquitted. We'll see if it'll happen again.
Yeah, we'll see. I got to ask you about Melania Trump real quick.
Well, she doesn't look happy, but, you've been married, Halli. I've been married. You can never understand another person's marriage.
Oh, aren't you kind?
Sometimes not even your own. So
I'll tell you what, to me, she is like the Handmaid's Tale, and I keep thinking she's leaving clues. I mean, when she went to the Holocaust Museum the other day, I am sorry. That was just, and she's done that kind of thing before. I think the woman's being held hostage. I'm not joking. I know.
Yeah. Look. I mean, look. It's clearly it can't be good for marriage when it emerges your husband's lawyer is paid a porn star. That's never a good thing in a marriage.
No,
not something I've personal experience with, but it can't be good.
No, it can't be good. It can't be good. What's her reputation in town, though? Because, I mean, I really think she's not a very effectual first lady. I mean, she's just...
Well, I think in a way she's kind of... You can make... someone did this the other day. Sort of made kind of a feminist argument for her that she's not going to do the role, right? She's not going to go out and be a public spokesman for some popular cause, and she's just not going to do it. She's going to do her own thing. And that's kind of what she's doing, right? I mean,
I don't know. That, or like I said, she's being held hostage.
For sure.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, let's just say she's not a big presence around Washington, right? I mean, she's not out, doing public events. She's not sort of seen out lunching a lot. She's not casting a big shadow here.
All right, Mr. Soothsayer, I want you to put your Johnny Carson, whatever that character is.
Karnak the Magnificent.
So, Karnak, darling, does he last 4 years?
Well, let's look at the actuarial tables, right? 71-year-old man is 200 and what? 49 pounds, they said? They said.
There's the answer.
They said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see how you get to impeachment. That's 67 votes in the Senate. I just doesn't even seem plausible at the moment. People have fantasies about him wanting to quit, and he would just say, "Oh, forget it." I don't think we're anything in a place remotely like that. So, if I had to bet, I think he's still going to be around at the end of the term.
How about the country?
Well, I think some things will have changed, right? I mean, we'll have decided that it's okay for a president to have his own business while he's still in office.
It's like a second job.
He might technically be the CEO anymore, but he can still own a business and whatever. And we will have allowed a lot of things we didn't used to allow.
Well, I say about him that when he's in the Oval Office, that's his playpen, and when he's on the golf course, that's where he works.
Right.
But I'll let you have the last word. What's your last word?
The last word is everyone should keep an open mind, even if you've decided. Keep an open mind about what's happening, because I think that's so important. And subscribe to a newspaper.
and a magazine.
Pay for it.
Absolutely. I've been speaking with Matthew Cooper, Senior Washington Correspondent for Newsweek. For his insightful reporting, visit Newsweek.com. You are listening to TALKish with Halli Casser-Jayne, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. My guests today are Newsweek Senior Washington Correspondent Matthew Cooper and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's longtime friend and personal trainer, the author of the RBG WORKOUT, Bryant Johnson. TALKish with Halli Casser-Jayne. Post new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com. Now, here's one for you. The perfect title for a film. The Personal Trainer and the Supreme Court Justice. Sort of like The Bachelor and The Bobby Soxer. Except this isn't a film. This is real life. It's the real-life story of how Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the Supreme Court's favorite octogenarians, after a bout of colorectal cancer, hooked up with one Bryant Johnson. today one of America's most well-known fitness gurus, in part thanks to his association with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Their story told in Bryant Johnson's new book, The RBG Workout, How She Stays Strong, and You Can Too. As is Justice Ginsburg, the RGB Workout is a tiny little book, but packed with a whole lot of information. How does Ginsburg stay so active and energetic? And also a great deal of insight into Justice Ginsburg herself. So much here, including Justice Ginsburg's workout from start to finish. It's time for TALKish. Let's talk with certified personal trainer to Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and author of the RBG Workout, Bryant Johnson. Now, Bryant, this is so inspiring on so many levels. No kidding. I mean, this little book, but I have to tell you something. You're a kid from Newark, New Jersey. And I grew up in Englewood, New Jersey. My daddy was born in Newark, New Jersey. My relatives are all there on one side of my family. So we have that in common. But the kid from Newark, New Jersey becomes the personal trainer to one of the most well-known, most loved women in the world. That's really a great story in and of itself. Talk to me about your childhood, how you became even interested in fitness. Give us the Cliff Note version.
So the Cliff Note version is that growing up in the country, I always was active, just running around outside, and it wasn't until after I left the country and I joined the military, the reserves, and they got me to jump out of airplanes for no apparent reason at all. And I realized in order for me to make sure that my body can sustain this, I better start working out. And I also noticed that I like to eat good food. And in order for me to eat what I wanted to eat, I needed to make sure that I worked out. And so that was really my initial thing, was I was telling people that the reason why I work out as hard as I do so I can eat what I want, when I want, and I don't have to worry about it.
That's the thing we all have to learn when we get to be that certain age. You remember the days when you could eat and you didn't have to worry about that, but no more. So you got yourself certified as a personal trainer, but your day job was and still is district. This is amazing to me. All through all of this.
Yes, see the background?
Talk to me. Talk to me about that. You stay with the district clerk's office. That's what your real day job is.
Yes, and as I think about all this, it goes back to a saying that my grandmother always told me, and it's in the book. And the saying is that a mighty poor mole is a mole that only has one hole to go into, which means you got to have options. You got to have more than one thing going on. And for some reason, I took that to heart, but I didn't realize until after I got older. So as I was working at the district court, I was already in the military reserves. So that was one thing that I had going on. Working at the district court, district court and the military, that's two things going on. And then I was actually working out, and people just started to ask me questions about working out and training. And that really happened because, once again, I was in the military, jumping out of airplanes. I like to eat good food, and I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was telling people. So I decided to get certified as a personal trainer. So I figured, if you're going to ask me what's going on, I at least want to make sure that I know exactly what it is, what I'm doing. And that's also with the military side, because I had people that would ask me how to do certain things in the military. So my first certification was actually through the military, which was a master fitness trainer. And then once I got that certification done, then I went into ACE, American Council of Exercise, and I got certified as a personal trainer. I also got certified to do kickbox aerobics, and then it just started happening. I didn't really go look for people. People just asked me questions. I said, well, yeah, try this, this, and this. And they said, well, can I hire you as a trainer? Sure. Wow. And one thing led to another. You know what they say, the best advertisement is word of mouth? Literally, this entire process has been word of mouth.
That's extraordinary to me. Can you get addicted to exercise?
Yes, you can. You can get addicted to the feeling that you feel. Am I addicted to exercise? No.
Okay. No. It's a question I always want to ask. I know because I'm a walker, runner kind of person. And I do feel something change, that once I get going on that, it's just I got to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going.
It's amazing. The exercise, it actually releases chemicals in the brain. Endorphins are released when you actually exercise. So you can get addicted to that feeling. And I guess when I say I'm not really addicted, but I guess I kind of need to define it, because if I haven't worked out in a week or so. Then I could tell that I am neglecting the body, and I start to get a little cranky, a little more irritable. And so I always tell people I need to go into the gym. I need to go chew on some weights. I need to do something that's not going to bite back. I always tell people I never know anyone to ever regret a workout once they've completed it.
Once they've gotten it themselves going in it.
Yeah. Once you complete it, there's no one I ever known that's ever regretted it.
There you go. So you talked about the word of mouth, and it was through word of mouth that you were introduced to Justice Ginsburg. And what was that like? I mean, weren't you the least bit intimidated at the prospect of taking her on as your client? I mean, even way back when? I mean, this is phenomenal to me.
No, because way back when, my first client was a judge. It was a federal judge. And so he, which was Judge Hogan, he was my first judge. And I wasn't so much nervous because I was training him, but I knew at the time that by him being a federal judge and him being at a certain statute and me being a clerk, I didn't want him to feel any less than who he was. And so my thing was making sure that I respected him. I didn't make him feel slight or, make them feel any less secure, and make sure that I treated him with respect and showed him what to do. Didn't insult him, didn't insult his intelligence. And so that just paved the way. So Justice Ginsburg just was another person to train. The nervous part with me is just seeing if I can build that bond with that person. Because each person is different. Each person pulls a different type of energy from me.
That's a fascinating statement that you just made. I like that. When you met her, can you remember the first meeting?
Yes, I remember. Well, I clearly remember getting a call telling me that Justice Ginsburg is interested in hiring you as a personal trainer. Well, my listening skills wasn't on point because I heard Ginsburg and I thought Ginsburg from upstairs in the Court of Appeals. Well, you realize Justice Ginsburg also used to be upstairs in the Court of Appeals. And at that time, there were two Ginsburgs. And so I immediately went upstairs. Judge Ginsburg, I said, Judge, you called me? He literally looked at me and was like, no, the other one. She's at the Supreme Court. Then I thought about it for a moment. I was like, the Supreme Court? Really? I'm like, okay. So I got nervous because I had to go to the Supreme Court. And walking in, seeing all the marble and the hollow halls, and it's like a museum. And, people are looking at me, guards are looking at me like, yeah, can we help you? You're out of place. What's going on with this picture? I'm like, I'm not a pro se. I'm actually here on official business. They escorted me directly to Justice Ginsburg's chambers, which was very nice. I was like, this is nice. And sat down, and she was right there. And she proceeded to say, hi, I was referred to you by Judge Kessler, and she was interested, and we proceeded to have a brief conversation. She had a law clerk in there with her, and I basically went into trainer mode from that moment on because I was no longer fascinated with the person, but my thing was now trying to figure out how to help the person. I immediately just kind of switched modes into, okay, how can I help you?
This is back in 1999, and she'd just survived a bout with colorectal cancer. I guess it was her husband who had said you need to do something about the body. And he described her, I think at the time, as looking like she was a concentration camp survivor.
Yes.
She's a tiny, tiny woman anyway, right?
Yes. And I guess I can say that her being small had no effect because I've trained clients before who were small, and I remember some of my clients would ask me, says, well, why are you training her? She's already small. I said, well, everyone's not working out just to be losing weight. Some want to get strong. So just because you see a person, don't judge what that person looks like, and I gave them an example like diabetics. Sometimes they have to work out six times a day just to keep that, their insulin level. So you can't judge just because you see a person. So when I initially saw Justice Ginsburg, I didn't really think anything of her statue. I didn't think anything of her size or condition. If she was talking to me, then my objective was, okay, what can I do to help her? And believe it or not, when she told me about her just finishing colon cancer and her last bout of chemotherapy, that really just kind of went right over my head because I wasn't going to use it as an excuse. I was like, okay, you're here now. So it didn't really affect me what she couldn't do. I wasn't concerned about what she can't do. My concern was, what can you do? And we will build on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I meet people, I always say that whatever my initial... Are you making fun? I wish you could see what he's carrying on the camera. Brian, I think I'm in love.
You can see me, but I can't see you, so I think I mess with you.
He's messing with me, guys. I'm in love. Oh, my God. This could be my new best friend. He's adorable. Absolutely adorable. But when you first, I always say when I first meet, like when I first talk to you, I mean, I guess right across, the waves, it was, wow, this is a great guy. This is an open, fun, fantastic guy. And no matter what happens after that, I always know that if that's my first reaction to somebody, I can be assured that's what they're being. Sometimes you meet people and your hair goes back, but you power through it, right? And then they always wind up being jerks. You're not a jerk. What was what with her? Does she except when you make funny faces into the camera? But on the other hand, with her, was that it? Does she give off that vibe? What's the vibe that she gave off? Can you remember that? Because a lot of people don't get her, and I'm hoping you'll also enlighten us a little bit.
When I first met Justice Ginsburg, and with me, and this is what I tell trainers, and I've talked to trainers, I say, even though they're calling you because of who you are, you got to remember, it's never ever about you. It's always about it's always about the client. And so I was awed for a moment when I walked into chambers. But once she sat down and we started discussing what she was going through and what she wanted, I immediately just started thinking client, thinking functional exercises. This is what we're going to do. And so I know as a personal trainer and with a new client, it takes a few times for you to build that bond, because I realize that because the level that she's at, for someone to call me, they have to relinquish some form of power to reach out and say, I need some help.
Right. And I'm going to trust you that you're going to take me down the right road with that. So exactly. She has that ability to let go. Because my feeling is she's a tough cookie in many ways, and God knows she's smart. Is she coordinated?
But the beauty of it is, but the beauty is though, she knows what she knows, and she's not afraid to say, I don't know this. Right.
Well, that says a lot. Yeah. That's why she's a good justice. By the way, that's, she's open to hearing from the other side. Is she coordinated?
Oh my God. I thought I was coordinated. She's always coordinated. When I say coordinated, yes, she's always coordinated. And I'm coordinated too. Someone made a brief statement to me one time, and it says, but do your glasses always match what you wear? I'm like, what are you talking about? This is your glasses. They match exactly what you're wearing. And I was like, really? Or sometimes my sneakers match my outfit. Yes, that's the nerd in me.
The nerd. I don't think there's a nerd in you at all. You're adorable. Listen, now you talked about you built her regimen from scratch. But can I hire you? And when you come down here, maybe we need to meet. But interesting, you learned your program was working because when her bone density test came back, they showed her density was increasing. Now, she only works out twice a week. What?
Right.
No. Okay. That I know that I couldn't get away with that. But talk to me about the routine that you built for her. First of all, is it universal? Is it something we can all use? Is it for people of a certain age? Let me just finish, Bryant. And can we, using what's in the book, even say, okay, twice a week would be sufficient? Maybe not. Talk to me.
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. It's just to everything. It's just to doing twice a week. The justice asked me, said, well, how often should I work out? With me. And I said, okay, Justice, let's just start off twice a week. Once a week is just not going to be quite enough for the body to get used to what you're doing. So at least twice a week. Is it something that everyone can use? Yes. Is it effective? I use a military acronym that I created. It's called a C moment, SEE, which is simple, easy, and effective. You said you can't? Yes, you can do it twice a week. And we cover just about we cover the entire body in this entire book. And we do a version of every exercise in that book twice a week.
So that's an hour routine?
At least an hour, sometimes longer. With me and a justice, we now can do it probably about 45 minutes because there's not much conversation. It's just like, hey, Justice, how are you? That's my assessment. Depending on what her response is, I'll adjust the workout according to her response. And then as I'm adjusting the workout, I'll adapt it as we're going along. So if she says, hey, I've only had an hour's sleep or I'm very, very tired, in my mind, I know I'll adjust the workout accordingly. But that's probably the extent of our conversation. And then the news hours go on, and we just go straight through the workout. We just go. Boom. I touch her hand means let go of this. Move. Go to. She doesn't touch any of the weights. I basically everything. She just sits down and just, it's like a machine. She just goes, boom, boom, sits in this machine, does this, sits over here, does this, boom, does this. So it's that routine with no talking. It can go pretty quick.
So it's a weight. It's what? It's not aerobic. It's weight. It's more body resistance, right?
More anaerobic, but we are using free weights. We're using body weights. We're using machines. We're using a combination of everything.
And you can build muscle.
Yes.
In 2 hours a week.
Yes. Proof is in the pudding.
I'm going to do it, baby, and we're going to have you back, and we're going to do before and afters, and we're going to talk about it. How's that? You want to play that game with me? I would love to do that.
Don't make me make a road trip down there.
Yeah, anytime you want, Ron. Anytime.
Hey,
you want.
all right, I'm telling you now. I'm going to call you on that.
No, I'm serious about that. I would love to do that. I mean,
so am I.
You get into a state, and that the old days I could just walk or run. You can't do that anymore. You got to do weights when you get to be a certain age. You just can't do the walking. It doesn't do it.
You have to do weight bearing exercises. Period.
Yeah, right. And you can get away without the walking. I happen to love to walk, and I live right on the beach, so I can do that every day, and that's like my thrill. So you two have been through a lot together, because she also went through a pancreatic cancer. Good Lord, and she's still here. And I saw today that she's going to be around for a long, long time, all you Republicans.
You saw it at Sundance?
Yeah, I mean, good for her, right? So
yes.
She adores you, though. And she writes a foreword in the book, and it is so filled with respect and admiration and adoration towards you. Now, she even went so far as to say you're the most important person in the world to her besides her family. Now, listen to what I'm going to say to you, Bryant. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of responsibility for you to carry. No? Yes?
Yes, but no. I say yes because I've only recently actually ever heard her say that. It's different when you hear other people say it or you see it in print. And it wasn't until I actually saw on one of the interviews I did right around when the book came out, I did an interview with CBS Interactive, and they played a clip where it actually showed the justice actually saying it. And that was the first time that I actually saw her say something like that. And it touched me. I was honored. I was humbled. And I was speechless and I was touched. But then at the same time, as much as I mean to her, she means just that much to me. Because she is, I tell people that she's like a cyborg. And people's like, well, what do you mean? I mean, she shows up. No matter what the situation, she shows up. With 1 hour sleep, she shows up. No matter how much work she has to do, if she knows we're scheduled to work out, she shows up. Even through pancreatic cancer, she was like, okay, when can we start working back out again? I'm like, okay. So there are times that I actually have to protect her from herself. And it really came because she started to see the results of exercise and being consistent with the exercise. And so when you see that 1 + 1 = 2, why mess with the formula?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying there. And I think that's very, very true. It's interesting because to my mind, fitness, the clues to the fitness kingdom, if you will, staying fit is through not just the body, but the mind and the spirit. And I'm sure you would agree, not to mention the food or the lack thereof. But you write about her determination. That's what we're really talking about here. So who is this woman you've come to know about all these years? You call her Tan?
Yes.
Talk about that. I love that.
TAN, once again, this is the military in me. The military has an acronym for everything. And someone asked me, well, what is Justice Ginsburg? I said, well, she's tan. She says, what do you mean? She's not as dark as you. I was like, no, TAN. She is tough as nails. She's tan. And there are times, I remember one time that we were supposed to work out and she had an injury or something. And I suggested that we don't work out that particular day. Well, Chambers called me and said, well, the justice will not take no for an answer. I was like, really? I said, but she got injured. She's like, she doesn't want to take no for an answer. I was like, no problem. I physically went to the Supreme Court. I walked into her chambers. Hey, Justice, how are you? Oh, hey, Bryant, she told me what the little incident that happened. I was like, I says, well, do you feel anything? She's like, no, I don't feel anything right now. I said, so I think we should train. And I'm like, well, Justice, did they give you any drugs? She's like, well, they gave me a little morphine. I said, oh, you got the good stuff. I was like, well, how about this? What we have to do, you will feel this later. And then, so I suggest we rest the body, give it the weekend, and then it's a holiday, and then we'll start back slowly. I said, trust me, Justice, I always have your best interests at heart. But it's taken many years and for us to build up that trust for each other. So she listened to me and she said no. But when I say tough as nails, she is willing to work out regardless.
What do you say to your clients who say, not today, please, Bryant, not today?
Like I tell my mother, I cannot care more about you than you care about yourself. If you don't want to work out, I can't make you work out. That's the difference. The justice never tells me can't. I have some clients that say, I just don't feel like it. Can we just do a little something? See, first of all, if we're meeting, even though you may not want to work out, me as a personal trainer, that is my job to adjust and adapt the workout to what you're feeling today. So that's why you can't always have, this is what we're going to do. You got to be able to adjust and adapt your workout according to how your client is feeling that particular day. And each client is different. So
that's interesting. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you had something else you wanted to because I just interrupted rudely. I'm sorry.
No, and I've interrupted you rudely, and I apologize also. You had me talking. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Go for it, buddy.
I remember when me and the justice first started working out. I never really got much feedback from her. And so you were asking me, how was I, how did we get along? And, I would say, Justice, how you doing? Fine. Is this okay? Yes. Are you all right? Yes. Those are the questions I asked. Those are the answers she gave me. So after about 3 or 4 weeks, about a month or so, I wasn't really getting much feedback. And so I called the chambers and I asked, I says, well, I'm not getting much feedback. Is the justice all right? Does she, she like to work out? I can't really judge what's going on. They literally said this, quote, if the justice didn't like you, you wouldn't still be here, unquote. Yeah. I never asked the question again. And so quietly, we've been working out since 1999. Sometimes you don't have to say anything to understand that respect. Sometimes it's about being silent and just being in tune with your client.
I'll be honest with you. I said it at the start of it. This is a movie. The Justice and the Personal Trainer. This is like no, really, it's like what was that movie with Cary Grant? The something in the Bobby Soxer.
So the question is, who's going to play me?
I mean, really? Well, there's only one as far as I'm concerned. But should I tell you who? I'm Denzel Washington. I mean, are you kidding? My man. I love that man.
I have gotten that a couple of times, especially when I have, the Willow speeches. Oh, you look like Denzel.
Oh, God.
I'm like, yeah, too, sure
yeah.
I do.
No, well, you got the same smile as he does, I got to tell you. So listen to me. The book has great illustrations, by the way. I mean, this is really a great book. I mean, this is like, it's small, it's compact, like she is, by the way. And the illustrations are fantastic. She wears a T-shirt, Super Diva.
Yes.
And let me tell you a couple of other things that I got out of this book. She loves chocolate. So do you, but only black chocolate, not white chocolate. She loves to laugh. So do you. She has a sense of humor?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome sense of humor. But you would never know.
Right. You have to get to know her personally. I suspect that she reveals her true personality. Although that's why she got along with Justice Scalia, right? All right.
Exactly.
I'm telling you your story. You tell us.
She has a sense of humor. Every now and then I'll say, when I talk to the justice is very careful when she speaks. She doesn't just flip off. She says what's on her mind, but she's very calculated when she talks. And so I remember one time I was telling her a joke. Hey, look, it was funny to me. And so I just said the joke back out to her, and I didn't get a response. And I was thinking to myself, maybe she didn't get it. And time went on, and then later on she kind of chuckled at it. But if you look at the book, and not the back of the book, but the last page in the book, there's a picture of me and the justice. And we're side by side, and the photographer had 5 minutes to get a picture of me and the justice, and the photographer said, well, can you make her smile? I'm like, she's a Supreme Court justice. She gonna do what she want to do. And this is, well, can you make her smile? I says, I have one thing that I will probably be able to tell her that will make her laugh. And so I was literally right beside her, in her ear. I said, Justice, you remember that time I had that staph infection on my leg and it was swollen up, and I went to the doctor, they cut it open and all that white stuff came out? She's like, yeah. I said, you remember I told you I didn't know I was that white inside? She lost it. And they took the picture, and that's the picture right there. Because she'll laugh, and the joke would catch her off guard so quickly that she'll almost choke.
Oh, God, I love it.
Choke laughing at it. So
listen, you've given her so much. You really have. You have given her her body, her mind, her spirit back in some terrible moments in her life. You work out with her. I'd spend 2 hours a day with you twice a week. You're adorable. What'd she give to you?
You ever try to figure out what your purpose is in life? That was always a question to me. What is your purpose? What are you here for? And it wasn't really until this whole journey started, and when the book came out, and I was talking to somebody, is that all that you really want to try to do is just make a difference. And so what the justice has given me, she's given me an opportunity to try to make a difference with people. You're not entitled to know if you've made a difference. All you want to do is just try to do right by people. Try to do right and try to do the right thing and try to be right by them. And if someone tells you 5 years from now, 2 years from now, or tell you that they made a difference, then that's great. If they don't tell you, guess what? You're not entitled to know, but just do right, because karma has a way of coming around full circle. And this is a prime example. I've been training the justice quietly since 1999. I never really said anything about it. A few people here knew I trained her, and I never really pursued the book. It really was because someone was curious about her workout. And they says, well, can I do a story about her workout? And I was like, well, it's already out there. No, I want to go through her workout. And I said, really, from beginning to end? And he's like, yeah, from beginning to end. I asked the justice, and I said, well, Justice, this person wants to go through your workout from beginning to end. If you said it's okay, I'll do it. If not, I have other stuff to do. She literally said, I hope he makes it through the workout. Yeah, that's what she said, but I didn't hear. That's not what I heard, though. And I repeated that back to the justice later on after this book came out. I said, Justice, you remember what you told me? She's like, yes. You said, I hope he makes it through the workout. She's looking at me like, yeah, I know what I said. And I said, well, Justice, that's not what I heard. See, what I heard was, break that young whippersnapper down. So, but...
Diva she. She doesn't come off as a diva at all, and she comes across as wonderful. But I have news for you. If she's spending all that time with you, she's lucky to have you. Thanks, Bryant.
Thank you so much. I'm lucky.
I've been speaking with Bryant Johnson, the author of the RBG Workout. For more information on the book, visit Amazon.com. Thanks so much for tuning in to TALKish, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of ResEC LLC. Be sure to tune in to TALKish Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, when new podcasts are posted at hallicasserjayne.com. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.